this machine here came with this CPU. That's the original 1993 Pentium CPU.
The flawed one?
That's what we're going to find out today on my take on the Intel Pentium FDIV bug. Have you ever fixed an old computer? I did, many times. I'm the vintage collector and these are my stories.
This is Top Gun, the world's newest and fastest roller coaster here at Great America in Santa Clara, California. Its sheer speed and power makes your heart beat a lot faster. But also here in Santa Clara, just across the road there, is the Intel Corporation, where they're making the Pentium microprocessor. Its sheer speed and power will make your computer beat a lot faster.
Intel began development on the original Pentium, also known as P5, in 1988 already. With an initial market launch foreseen for 1992, the Pentium finally hit the market in March 1993, coming in 60 and 66 MHz variations with initial pricing of $878 and $964 respectively per unit. Since simple numeric designations like 8386 or 8486 were not possible to copyright protect, Intel deliberately chose a name that was coming from the word Pente, meaning 5, to indicate the fifth CPU generation in the x86 series. Hence, the name Pentium was born.
The key, of course, to buying a Pentium PC is getting improved performance. But how much better is a Pentium than a good 486?
The Pentium had all what was needed to bring great success. It easily outperformed Intel's top-of-the-line 486-based DX4 in many disciplines. The CPU came with on-die cache and featured many improvements influencing many later CPU generations to come. The Pentium was also the first superscalar x86 CPU, which allowed it to run 2 instructions at a time. This is not to be mistaken with our present-day multi-CPUs, where you have fully independent CPU cores for parallel multiprocessing. Although the original P5 could run in a multiprocessing tandem with another P5 CPU, we're talking about instruction-level parallelism at runtime within the same CPU. Intel was not the first though, as this superscalar design was seen as early as 1990 in the AMD 29K RISC processor and throughout 1992 to 1994 also to appear in Sun's Super Spark, IBM's PowerPC and other CPU architectures. The P5 also featured a newly designed and super fast floating point unit, and it had both an internal and external 64-bit wide data bus. The P5 quickly declassed the 486 upon its release in 1993, and literally everyone needing the power of the P5 jumped on it.
And what we have here is AutoCAD Release 12 for DOS, and AutoCAD Release 12 for DOS is, again, not Pentium aware. We're running just straight code to make sure that you can understand where you would be with a 4633 and where you could go just with this new processor board.
This was true for my dad as well, as he bought the very same machine like this one I just recently acquired, a Highscreen Colani tower by German retailer VOBIS, sporting the much anticipated P5. My dad was a design engineer for gas turbines, so he naturally worked intensively with applications like AutoCAD and MathCAD to perform his calculations. And it could have been a perfect world had it not been discovered by Thomas R. Nicely, a mathematics professor at Lynchburg College, that the floating point calculations performed by the P5 were just wrong.
Programs like Redshift really take off with a Pentium processor inside your PC.
Now let's see. The Kirathi system.
The Intel Pentium processor.
Imagine that. The P5 was 18 months into the market and on October 24, 1994, Nicely approached Intel about the issue. As it turned out, Intel already knew it since June the same year, and while they had already fixed samples at hand, Intel chose to not publicly disclose the bug and neither offer replacements for the affected CPUs. Nicely at the same time had already reached out to other academics at that point, asking to verify and confirm his findings.
And as it turned out, not only the first generation of the 60 and 66 MHz models were affected, but also very early batches of the 75 and 100 MHz Pentiums.
It would not take too long to spread the word and finally hitting the news in November 1994, making the issue known to the broad public. It was only then that also my dad realized that the seldom miscalculations he had experienced himself were not because of his own mistakes, but actually coming from the CPU doing wrong calculations. Now, even with the public attention raising, Intel tried to play it down, claiming the error would hit only on average every 27,000 years. IBM, on the other hand, stopped sales of the Pentium-based machines, also stating that according to their calculations, the error would hit once every 24 days on average.
Another quick story. While Michael Abrash was programming the renderer, he was interleaving CPU instructions with FPU instructions.
On retrospect, John Romero later recalled how the guys at id Software invested hours for tracking down issues caused by floating point calculation errors during the development of the original Quake computer game.
But there is a known error with the floating point divide instruction on the Pentium. And now this bug is known as the Pentium FDIV bug.
The media backlash for the P5 bug was becoming bigger and bigger. Initially, Intel's then CEO Andy Grove, whom had passed away in 2016, announced by November 27, 1994 that Intel would like to find all users of the Pentium processor who are engaged in work involving heavy-duty scientific floating-point calculations, replacing their chips with new ones. This quickly spread out, and I as well remember this myself. As my dad was not very fluent in German language, I had to call up VOBIS if they offered a replacement. And I remember well VOBIS telling me that they wouldn't, and because of Intel's announcements, all users had to get in touch with Intel directly for a CPU replacement.
Vielen Dank, dass Sie Intel kontaktiert haben.
That's what we then did as well. We had the choice to bring it to a service center, though the only option at the time was in Germany, or have the new CPU sent to us and return the old one. And so we opted for the latter, and we got it rather quickly with a full set of instructions how to swap the CPU. And so, for the first time in my life, together with my dad, I swapped out the CPU. Up to this point, Intel had believed that swapping the CPUs just for the consumer base involving into heavy-duty scientific floating-point calculations would be sufficient, and probably just a few tens of thousands of units would be required. And to be fair, for many people, the floating-point division inaccuracy issue was maybe in fact a non-issue. However, as a consumer, you definitely have the right to have a flawless product. And with public pressure rising even more, and media proclaiming Intel to sell flawed products, Intel announced by December 20, 1994 to recall and replace all of the affected 6 million Pentium CPUs, no questions asked. Aside from the media backlash and the bad reputation, Intel was facing not only a steep decline in their stock's price, but also had to put aside some $476 million for the replacement program. Furthermore, Intel was facing no less than 8 product liability lawsuits and 2 shareholder lawsuits to be battled out in court. At least my dad was happy, as he had now a functioning machine before the big run started. Had we not gotten in touch with Intel on our own initiative, we would have waited for VOBIS to get in touch with us. This only happened several weeks into 1995, stating that it could take several weeks if not months, depending on stock availability, to get a replacement CPU.
Intel has announced the first round of price cuts on the Pentium processor. The company says prices will be cut up to 18% in the second quarter of '94. It
is believed that out of the 6 million affected Pentium CPUs, around 1 million was effectively replaced. Reasons could well be that for many people in fact floating point accuracy was indeed not a critical issue. With that being said, one question remains, which is, does this Highscreen machine now have the flawed Pentium CPU, or had it been replaced? So I was looking around to find some CPU identification utilities, and I go first by this one, which is version 2 of Intel's own test tool. And it tells me right away I have the affected Pentium CPU. However, coming from the history how badly Intel's reaction was at first, it's kinda weird how they were suddenly talking about quality and customer satisfaction. And yet again, they still were somewhat trying to play it down with their wording about exceedingly rare circumstances. Let's look at a freeware tool that was published by Terry Mattison, giving some more detail on the CPU details. And of course it states as well I have a flawed CPU. And since all good things are 3, I was also looking at Jan Steunebrink's Czech CPU utility, which still saw updates as recent as 2022. I was just curious if this often updated tool was still able to detect the Pentium FDIV bug, and as we can see here, it still can. Out of the many tools, Czech CPU is certainly the best, as it can output a detailed text report showing every aspect of the CPU. You could also try identifying the CPU by looking at the printed markings, though the ones on the other side will not be very helpful. And since the CPU was glued together with the cooler, I decidedly didn't want to take them apart. But here's a quick test that you could run in Microsoft Excel or the Windows calculator to verify the presence of the bug yourself. Having said that, what would I do now with that flawed CPU?
Maybe claiming the lifetime warranty, asking Intel to replace it.
Well, obviously someone was already trying to find this out in 2023, but I don't know what came out of it, as the conversation on the Intel forums just stopped. At least German IT magazine CT successfully called the replacement program in 2003 and 2008, although the former information page on Intel's website has disappeared since. On the other hand, why would I give away this flawed CPU? I think it's a precious gem that should be preserved. Or what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. I'm the Vintage Collector, and this was my story for today. Thanks for watching, and see you again next Sunday.